Hey, what's up, everybody? XRP is getting a little bit of a bounce, a little bit of a recovery, just like as we thought. This could be a fourth wave, so be cautious about that. This could be building a base. This could be going into a retracement. If we go into a retracement, then I would say this is not a fourth wave. And I'm going to jump into it. But look right off the bat, when you look at the 5-minute chart, what do you see, guys? I see a 5-wave move. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now that 5-wave move could be a part of a C leg, right? Which means this would be, let's see what we got here. We got 1, 2, 3. And then we have this very long, actually it would be, you got 3 up, right? And then you got 3 down. Okay. And now you got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 up. So that's a 3, 3, 5. So that's an A, B, C. Okay, so this could be the fourth wave, right? This could be the fourth wave. In which case we would have, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1. Come back up for 2. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Here's your 3, or actually put 3 there. And then you have this A, B, C. Remember 3, 3, 5, and then boom, there's your 4. And I don't think I had enough coffee this morning. And now we're coming back down to our 5, right? So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now, if we get a 5-wave leg, it's not going to be as nice looking, right? Because, we would threaten this low. I really would love to see this low be held. And that comes in at exactly 50 cents. But I want to talk about, I'm going to jump into this. I'm going to tell you what I think is going on here. And it's actually quite very bullish. So the SEC obviously appealed, right? But here's the thing. Now that people are reading about it, at least 24, 36, 48 hours, right? The dust is settled. I talked to my contacts. I listened to people on YouTube that are way smarter than me as far as lawyers and things like that. And it's not, as I'm listening to it, it's not bad at all. It's not bad at all. This is much more than we can possibly understand. For example, the SEC had no choice but to sue Ripple. Why? Not because they felt like, oh, we lost and we want to get you back. And yeah, that has to do with it. But it's mostly to do with the current litigation they're in with Binance, Coinbase. Remember how they sued Coinbase, right? And they had a list of securities like Algorand and all that. So by them not appealing, it basically kind of opens the door for their other lawsuits to kind of get squatted on. So they're, from a strategic perspective, that's why they appealed, right? They know they're not going to win. They did not appeal. They appealed the ruling, a piece of it. They did not appeal the XRP is not a security or is not a security, right? So people are figuring it out. People are like, okay, it's not that bad. It's it is what it is. The law of the land is XRP is not a security, right? They still got to go to the appellate courts. Maybe they can figure something out there. But at the end of the day, this is just going to extend our ammunition. Why? Because think about it. If this has to go to the second court or the second circuit or whatever terminology they use that I'm not so advanced on, but whatever, even if they have to go to the Supreme Court, at the end of the day, that is more ammunition for the price. Because think about it, right? When I'll give you an example, and these are kind of bad examples because we've been in a bear market, but you can see this pump right here was XRP is not a security, right? And then people realized, wait a minute, we're still in litigation. We still have the other part of the lawsuit, so we go back down. Okay, hold support here. This is the so here's what I'll say. This is very interesting, because let me just draw this right here. This is our zone, guys. This is the zone of, like that Spartan movie 300 where they're holding the line, hold the line, like this is it right here. So when we see, and this is very important, when we see the drop, man, what's up with my arrow? I got to make that a little bit bigger. That's like a little baby arrow right there. Okay. When we see this drop here, we landed right on support after the XRP is not a security ruling. So this is XRP, not a security. This is people realizing, it's not so bad that there's another part of the lawsuit, right? And then we kind of play around in here, kind of like, okay, are we going to go up? Are we going to come down? Are we going to go up? We're just kind of in no man's land, right? So we had this three-wave move. And when you have a three-wave move like that, then typically you correct the opposite way. So we did. We had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And we got oversold. That's a deviation right there, right? So XRP is not a security up here. XRP is still not a security down here. So what's the difference? Basically the valuation, right? So then what happened? Well, then they unleashed the settlement, right? And instead of them paying $2 billion or something like that, they only paid a couple % of what they were going to pay. So then, boom, the lawsuit's over. I think it happened. You know what? I think it happened. Yeah, it happened in July. Did it happen in July or August? It happened in here, right? So we had this pump, came back down, back tested, had another pump, right? So boom, the lawsuit is over. It's done, right? But what did we do? You can see what we did. Let me get this eraser here. You could see right here, right? What did we do? We back tested the hold the line area, right? We and we came up here. We had a three-way move. We back tested it again. Okay, so what happened? We had this impulse, right? We had this three-way pullback. And then what did we do? We had a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, but you could say it's really only a three-wave move, and we'll talk about those ideas momentarily. But at the end of the day, we came up, right back to resistance, okay? And I thought, this was a good breakout. This was but obviously we had the SEC come in and appeal. Now, when I go back in my records, and I'm looking at these old interviews, I'm looking at like Meta Lawman, I'm listening to these, and this is not a surprise. And I acted more surprised. Why? Because I'm a TA guy. I'm not really a news guy, but this prompted me to go back. Let me look at the sources. Let me see what people said. Let me look at these interviews. And now it makes sense. Now that the dust is settled, this was not a surprise, right? It was not a surprise. I'm not so surprised that they did it, but I'm just more upset that they did do it right at the point where this was looking pretty nice for a breakout. But again, crypto changes every 24 hours, right? So what I'm trying to say here is, what happened? They came and we broke out here. First of all, this little range right here. This was the breakout in my my YouTube video. The title breakout, right? We broke from this range. Let me blow that up a little bit here. So let's go down, and I'm going to show you exactly what I'm saying right now. So if we look at this zone, and this is where it's going to all start to make sense. We look at that zone, we back tested. I said, okay, we're back testing. And right here, right in the back test zone, that's when The XRP ETF came. Oh, that's another thing I got to tell you about. Just one moment. But basically, they appealed. And what happened? Obviously, we dropped all the way back down. But where did we drop, guys? Where did we drop? Let's go back to the daily. We dropped in our hold the line area. This is the same area, right? This is the same area that we dropped to. Remember, XRP is not a security. We dropped all the way down to the yellow zone. Held support, came back up into a retracement, had a 3-wave B wave, had a 5-wave leg down that took the liquidity here. That's the important part. Remember back over here, I got to go to the other chart real fast. Bear with me. I'm trying to go fast. I'm trying to do this as quickly as I can for time purposes here. But you can see, and this is probably not, this is the Binance chart. I like the Bitstamp chart, but it's okay. Right there. So you can see we grab the liquidity. We grab the liquidity. We grab the liquidity, right? And that's exactly what we're doing over here, right? We grabbed that liquidity right here, right? And a really good example of that is this chart right here, right? So we came down, we grabbed that liquidity. Same thing here, we grabbed that liquidity. Okay, so we got that out of the way, right? This is kind of like a little bit of a recap, but you're gonna see where I'm going with this. So anyways, we got the liquidity. We came back up in a very strong 5-wave impulse. And then we had a 3-wave pullback with a back test bullish wick to go along with it. We came up, but it was a little bit too early, perhaps. And you can say it's too early. We've been doing this forever. How long is it going to take? Well, you know, that's just the way it goes. We came up, we got rejected here. And this little dump right here, you see that dump right there? That is the SEC appealing the Ripple case. But look at this dump over here, right? This is a monster dump. Why? There was no bad news. Why did it dump? Because it was a sell the news type of event, right? The rumor is XRP is not a security. We bounce up. We take our profit. We come right back down to the yellow zone, right? This yellow zone is incredibly important that we stay above it, right? That we really need to stay above this zone. So what I'm trying to say is when the SEC appealed, where did we go down to? Right back down to the yellow zone. And we did, here's the thing. We didn't go inside the yellow zone. We didn't get, really oversold, right? We landed right on top of the yellow zone. So we back tested all of it in here because people are starting to digest what happened, right? Here's the big thing. This is all, so there's two parts of this that I've learned because I've been doing some research and I'm going to share what I've learned with you based on some of the things. Now, this is not financial advice. Nothing I say is. This is just my opinion. I could be totally wrong. Take it with a grain of salt, as they say. So the whole thing was, let's go back right here. I'm going to show you this right here. So right here, or actually, yeah, it was right in here. The XRP ETF was announced. Bitwise ETF filing, right? That was the good guys expending their ammunition. Let's go, ETF. That was at a perfect time. Why? Because remember, we were consolidating, we broke out, we back tested. What better time to unleash the XRP ETF than on the back test level? So they released the news, ETF filing, got everybody bullish. Price didn't do anything. Why? Because the insiders knew this is why we dumped in the first place. Guys over here knew they were going to appeal. Guys over here knew they were going to appeal. So why did we pump? So that they can get into a short position, right? So that's what they did. This was all a short, right? Remember, have you ever seen the movie The Big Short? Right? So it's nothing like that, but you know what I mean? So they short the position, they come down, and this is interesting because this is how people get screwed over. And that's why I'm trying to explain what these guys are trying to do and how they're trying to deceive people with this news. Like, oh, we got an appeal. It's going to take another 2 years. We're going to have to go down the line and it's going to take forever. And XRP is going to miss out on the next bull run and it's just never going to work. I might as well dump all my coins and walk away. That's what they want you to do. That's exactly what they want you to do. But here's the thing. I believe that this is some sort of trickery. Obviously, it always is, to get us back down into this level so that they can accumulate this level again, right? And you can say, well, why would they do that? They've been accumulating this whole time. Why do they need? Well, here's the thing. The Bitwise filing, right, was part of the reason why they appealed. Okay? So there's two situations going on. Number one, the Bitwise filing, right? That was a response to that. So they filed the ETF and they're like, oh yeah, well, I'm going to appeal you. And it's basically like, I'm going to counter what you just did. But the other part of it too is the fact that they're still in litigation, with Coinbase and Binance and all of the things going on over on that side, right? So by them appealing is basically good optics for the case that they're trying to make in regards to Coinbase, but it doesn't mean anything, and it's not going to most likely go anywhere. Yes, it's going to, they're going to basically prove their case again if it has to go that far. But look, they did it so brilliantly this time, and for political reasons, right? I don't think it's going to go anywhere. And I think that this thing is just nothing more than a little move that they did trying to shake people out, right? So here's what I'll show you. Listen to this.
SEC has put out the news that they are appealing Judge Torres's ruling. And I feel like this was in direct response to the 2 ETF applications we saw come out. It is important to remember as we move through this information, this is not as damaging as...
So you heard what he said. This was direct response. And then he said this is not as damaging as people think. But here's the thing. Why wouldn't Bitwise wait until after the October 9th ruling, right? Because October 9th was supposedly the deadline for the appeal. So Bitwise, a bunch of dummies, I think they would have appealed anyway, but come on, from a they don't really know, I don't think, but from a strategic perspective, all they had to do, right, if that was the case, is just wait until after October 9th and maybe October 10th, then put out the ETF ruling, the ETF application, right? That way, they couldn't have done anything about it. Right? So they did it in response to the ETF filing. So listen to this. Let me go back just a little bit.
You probably are thinking 2 ETF applications we saw come out. It is important to remember as we move through this information, this is not as damaging as you probably are thinking. If you're thinking this is just as horrible as when the case was brought, you got it all wrong. I want you to first imagine right now that someone is found not guilty in a murder case. And then the state decides to appeal that decision. Well, that person who's been found not guilty is not guilty. And they are free as you and I to do whatever they want to do until this appeal is heard, approved, ruled on, and then reversed. And if that doesn't happen, nothing changes anyway. So the reality is the SEC does not get to choose because they're appealing a case whether or not to approve an ETF or not. That isn't the way it works, and they're going to get themselves in a deeper hole if they try to do those things. And I think they know that they're not able to. However, we're still waiting for the details on what they will appeal the case on. And that's going to be very important. But I went back into the treasure trove. It was on to the Supreme Court, but I didn't necessarily think that it was bad for Ripple. I see a positive outcome for Ripple, and the SEC being the party that's appealing somewhere along the line. Anything What are your thoughts on that idea?
I think if the SEC loses something substantial, they will appeal, and I think the same is true of Ripple. So the appeal will be stepped back.
So there you have that. Now let's go to this clip where I talked to James, and this was last year, and
I could see them doing that. But I'll tell you, it's so weird. You know, they bring these cases and say, hey, Algo is a security, but they don't sue Algorand. You know, in the Coinbase case, I guess Algo's in there and others. You know, so they don't have that argument now in the exchange cases, except for, you know, the Binance BNB token.
And we know what happened in that case. The SEC was forced to admit that they made up in the footnotes they placed in there, they made up the term crypto asset securities. Made it up. Just made it up. But let's jump back in right here.
Possible.
All right, well, speaking of that being very possible, then that brings me to the next question. In your professional estimation of looking at what's happening here, how likely is it that we see this case, what's left of this split decision, go to the appellate court and then on to the Supreme Court? Because I don't change my mind that some element of this may continue to go to the Supreme Court.
I think it's very likely. Because
So basically, they just said they think it's very likely that they're going to appeal, and it's going to go to the appellate court, and then it's probably going to go to the Supreme Court. But here's the thing. Yes, it sucks for the price momentarily, but here's the thing. Price moves in a way where things happen, the price reacts, and then it's over, and then the price starts hunting for the next probable outcome, meaning pricing in itself, right? The price, people say it's irrational, and it is, but there is some form of intelligence when it comes to how price moves, right? So it definitely is one of the interesting phenomenons that how price works. Other than just supply and demand, there's a lot more to it than that. But the price reacted violently to the downside based off that appeal. So now the price flushed out all the liquidity, it flushed out everything, right? So now what? Now what is the price doing? Think about the price being alive, right? What is the price going to do now? Well, the ruling already happened. People are already aware of the news. People who sold already sold. Maybe they're going to sell later, but maybe they sell on a retracement. But all in all, the price is figuring out, okay, what's the next thing that I got to look for? Here's a really, really, really brilliant example. Actually, two examples. So we had C19 right here, right? And what is C19? What was this drop about? It was liquidity. It was the world shut down, global shutdown, the economy screwed, everybody run for the hills. But then once it happened, it was over. And then what happened? The price thought about it for a second and was like, okay, we're down in the dumps, we're oversold, right? We flushed out all the bad leverage trades. So now what? Now we're going up. Well, why would the price go all the way up after a massive disaster like CA19? Because what is it doing? It's pricing in the next event. What was the next event? Inflation. We went all the way up, right? And then we started going up, right? And then once we got all the way up here, that's when the inflation narrative started coming out. After the fact, after it already happened. It was done. It was over, right? The inflation, well, it wasn't over, but it was in full force at that point. And that's when the mainstream media was talking about it every day. That's when grocery prices were going up. It really started in the spring of 2021, right? It was a little bit noticeable in 2020, but not really that bad because all of the money printing. So C19 happened, right? And then the price dumped, but then the price thought about it for a second. It was like, well, wait a minute. I don't want to stay down here. I got to go back up. Well, why do I got to go back up? Because I know the result of this C19 would shut down, which is what? The money printer. They're going to turn on the money printer, right? So Bitcoin's like, okay, the dollar is going to devalue and inflation's going to rise. So I'm going to hurry up and race to the top of the hill before everybody else figures it out. And that's what it's all about, guys. It's a race to the bottom. It's a race to the top before everybody else figures it out. But once it's figured out, it's over. It's done. That's it. It's over. And here's another really amazing example that I hope you guys can appreciate here, which is the fact that same thing that happened right here. The SEC sued Ripple. This was the beginning of a 3 to 4 year long massive litigation. The crypto trial of the century started right there. The price dumped all the way. Now, this was after COVID, remember that. And this was in the inflation run up, okay? So the price dumped all the way down based off the news, right? People realized, okay, we're going to be in litigation for a while, so I'm just going to dump. So that's what happened. We dumped. But look what happened. The price quickly came back all the way back to the point, the same price before there was ever a lawsuit. And then it actually broke out and it went up. Let's see what it did from here to here. It went up almost 275% from above the price before that lawsuit started. So to me, that's pretty interesting, wouldn't you think? Because why would the price go all the way to $2 when everybody knows there's a lawsuit? Because people forgot about it. Well, there's some nuance to that. I mean, people don't forget, but it's kind of like, well, price is king. Like I said, price is king. Price dictates everything. If price is breaking out, then people forget about the lawsuit. It doesn't matter, right? Like Ripple can get fined or Ripple can get sued by the SEC, but if they're breaking out, then that's interesting. I'll give you an example, like the GameStop stuff. GameStop, that's kind of a bad example, but companies like that, like zombie companies, they don't make a lot of money. They're actually broke, right? But they have these big crashes because of the news comes out like they're going bankrupt. But then all of a sudden, like 2 months later, they're blasting off into outer space. Well, there's no logical sense for that, except what? They're playing the markets, and that's what it's about. People playing, the market makers setting this up. And the whole GameStop thing was sort of on its own, and it's kind of a bad example, but you see what I'm saying. So now let's take all of that, what we just talked about, and let's translate that to right now. So first of all, look at the drop. This is a tiny, tiny, tiny little drop, right? Like XRP didn't even flinch, really. Let's go up to like the 2-week chart. Okay, so if I was a blind man, or I can't be blind because I wouldn't be able to see, but if I was a deaf man and I didn't hear that the SEC appealed, and I'm just looking at the chart, I would just think, okay, this is just another candle that's consolidating, right? We're flipping green, red, green, red, green, red, right? We're just flipping back and forth. And that's just essentially what we're doing. By the way, this candle is going to end in 2 days, and we're going to have a new 2-week candle. So it'll be interesting to see. And you can see this long wick up here. It'll be very interesting to see when the next candle opens, do we come up and we retrace 50% of that wick? I have a sneaky suspicion that's probably going to happen, right? So taking everything what we just learned about, especially with Bitcoin here, right? Because Bitcoin ran up before inflation was the factor. Because why? The price, it was pricing in what the news is going to talk about later on, which is inflation, right? That's why markets, like I said, price in. Now, when it comes to the halvening and stuff like that, it's a yes and a no. Yes, it prices itself in, but it doesn't really take effect overall until much later on, right? Even after the next halving after that one, right? So it kind of it takes time to sort of marinate. But as far as the news of the fact that it's going to be a happening, like let's say next week or it already happened or whatever, people sort of price that in, but it doesn't fully price it in, right? So anyway, Bitcoin priced in the inflation way before it happened. That's why we got this massive breakout, right? So what about XRP? Now, here's the thing. Now that the SEC has sued or appealed the case, which I think is not going to go anywhere. Remember, Trump's going to be president. He's going to fire Gary Gensler. And all of this is just going to hopefully go away, right? I'm an optimist. It might be wrong. Maybe I'm wrong, but I don't think so. I think that's exactly what we're going to see, somewhere along those lines. But here's the thing. Now that the price has already slammed down, right? It came back down to the lows, just like how it came back, just like how the news came out for the lawsuit. Now, let me flip it upside down. Watch this. So here's the chart upside down, right? We had the lawsuit, or we had the news come out, and look, bam, we dropped. But then once the drop was over, what did we do? We came all the way back and we retraced. So what I'm trying to say here it is. Ready? What is the next thing price is going to chase? Just like how Bitcoin was breaking out, nobody understood why. They just thought, oh, it's part of the 4-year cycle. We're going into a bull run. That's it. No. Well, yeah, that had a lot to do with it, but also the inflation aspect, right? That was the narrative to go along with it. The narrative of this drop was the appeal. So now that it's done, and I'm not saying it's completely done, right? This could be a fourth wave. We could still get a fifth wave. It's probably even likely we do test 47 cents. I'm letting you know that. But once that's complete, where is the price going to head next? Well, that depends on how investors are positioning themselves to what's to come. Because if I'm an investor and I want to invest based off what I believe the outcome is going to be, for example, the election, right? Let's say Trump wins, people are positioning themselves according to that outcome, just like they position themselves according to the inflation narrative. And once inflation was here, that's when they sold. But why would they sell their Bitcoin when the inflation narrative just started? Because it's a buy the rumor. The rumor is they appealed. The news flushes it out, right? Sell the news, or buy the rumor, sell the news. So the news already came out. So now what? Well, the price is going to figure out where is it going next. So what is coming next? Well, number one, if the price is going to bottom out here and start heading back to the upside, then why would investors position themselves according to that way? Well, a few things. Number one, obviously, they believe Trump is going to be president and they're going to fire Gary, and that's right. Another part of it is that Bitcoin is going to go into its fifth wave, its expansion. Another part is XRP is undervalued. Another part is, we've already had this dump, so it's over with. So now let's continue rocking to the upside, because that's what markets do, right? They flush out things like XRP, right? You're flushed in the low, you come up, take the high, come back to the low, come back to the high, come back to the low. It's just normal ranging. We're just ranging in here. So there's no trend yet, right? So, even the appeal was not strong enough to set a trend, right? So what is the next move? My opinion, once this wave is done, is we're going to get a move to the upside. Now, this is all contingent on Bitcoin not breaking down into reaccumulation. If we do that, then obviously nothing can escape the wrath of Bitcoin and sort of liquidity drying up in the crypto space, because that's where a lot of these altcoins feed off of, right? It's like, Bitcoin is the mama dog and all the little pups are the altcoins, and they're trying to fight for the nipple, right? So they can eat. And that's just what it's about. Who gets the main nipple of this bull run, right? So when I look at XRP versus Bitcoin, it's looking quite interesting in my opinion. So the next move, I believe, after this is done, right, on the macro front, let's just zoom out here because we can't forget where we are. And this is very, I think, very important right here. So you can see we're sort of in this contracting triangle, right? And we're getting near the apex of this triangle. So is it going to break up or is it going to break down? That's the big question, right? So why would it break to the downside? Well, because maybe Kamala wins, maybe Trump wins, and and they dump on him, right? Maybe that's when the recession kicks in, because they want to wait until after the presidential debate for them to sort of create their event as an excuse as to why the economy is failing, so that they can blame Trump or blame whoever, right? But what they're really trying to do is transition us into the central bank digital currency. They're trying to control us. There's going to be some type of financial event, like a cyber attack on the financial system, or who knows what. So that could happen. Why, or even election chaos, fighting over the election. Why would it break to the upside? Because people are optimistic about the future, about Trump firing Gary, about us getting regulation, about passing through the Senate, signing it, right? Stablecoin bill, crypto bills, right? Getting regulation so that everybody can participate. Because a lot of people, that's why they're filing for the ETF, right? But really, ETFs are not a good thing. They're actually a bad thing. They actually opens the door for more manipulation. But companies don't want to buy the real thing because it's not regulated. So that's the whole thing. We need regulations, right? But these big companies like BlackRock, they low-key don't want regulation. Why? Because they're benefiting from the ETFs, right? And it's basically an exchange-traded fund. So that's what they deal with. But if we had actual regulations, people would just buy the actual real XRP token. You see what I mean? But they don't want that, right? So I think once this wave is complete and we start moving back to the upside, again, what is price? Why would price be moving up? What is it pricing in? The ETF, guys. That's number one. It would be pricing in the ETF. Remember, the SEC cannot deny the ETF just because they appealed. Like they said, they would get in more trouble than what it's worth, or so they say, right? Besides, I think a new administration is going to be there before that application. I mean, we got 30 days left, right? But we still have till January until an actual new administration is in. So now that the price was up here, we had the news that they're going to appeal. Bam, we get slammed down, right? We're back at home base. This is home base. This is where XRP feels most comfortable, right? So now that we're back at home base, now the price is like, okay, give me an excuse to either break up or break down. What's the excuse? Well, number one, again, the XRP ETF is going to come out. People, that's just an application. People know there's going to be like other people filing for ETFs, which is going to be bullish. They realize the applications are going to be soon to be accepted at some point. That's another reason to buy, right? Because it's all about positioning yourself before that big move happens, right? And that big move would happen because of why? Because people are pricing in that ETF. And then the ETF comes out, let's say the ETF comes out, right? And then what happens? Well, then it's sell the news. Then the price comes back down because everybody buys into it. But you should have been buying into it down here. But nobody's buying into it down here because they're so conflicted about the appeal. But you got to think beyond that. The appeal is old news. You say, wait a minute, it just happened 24, 48 hours ago. No, it's over. It's done. That's it. It's still going on, but the news is over. People already understand it, right? So that's why it's priced in, right? But what isn't priced in is what the next move is going to be. And we have to, being an investor is kind of look through the looking glass, looking into the future, trying to figure out what's coming next. And here's my prediction. Number one, Trump's going to win. Number two, we're going to get regulation. We're going to clean house at the SEC. That's going to be massively bullish for crypto, right? And then another thing is we're going to get regulations, which is a massive thing. It's going to really pump the price. And also the ETF is going to be accepted. And what else? What else do we have to look forward to? A Ripple IPO, right? So we still have a lot of ammunition. We still have the ETF. We still have the IPO, right? It's starting to get priced in. And, we just have to recover from this appeal news. So that's sort of, I know I've been ranting on for a while, but I'm just trying to help people understand how markets actually work, right? And why they do the things they do. Because the average guy, right, we dump down, okay, and they realize, well, now we have the appeal. Now it just screws us all up for XRP, right? So now what's the point of holding if we're going to be in an appeal and it's going to take another 2 years? Well, again, XRP didn't give a flying crap back over here, right? Yes, it wasn't that crazy. We didn't go into a full-fledged bull run, but here's the thing. Look how long XRP has been building a base, right? So the chart is actually more bullish than the actual news that's about to come, right? Which is XRP ETF, regulations, Trump winning, things like that. Because this range is nothing more than a bigger version of this range, right? And you guys already know reaccumulation, right? We have our rise, our crash, our retrace. We go down into reaccumulation, and we're going sideways. So long as we're going sideways, so long as we're building our base, so long as this cup and handle could be starting to form here, right? We're still very, very, very bullish, because the obvious next move is breaking to the upside. Now, it might take some time, but the obvious next move, in my opinion, is a big breakout to the upside. That's how I think people are positioning themselves, because, again, XRP has been building a base for the last 6 or 7 years. It took Amazon 10 years before it broke out of its price all-time high. So here's our all-time high, about 330, right? Just like our all-time high back over here was like a nickel. So you can see stepping up. What's the next move? Stepping up. I mean, that's just how it's going to go down. The thing is what will be the catalyst to send it to that next price, back to the upside? Well, if we look at what's been going over the last couple years, or the last year, we have an A, we have this B wave, 1, 2, 3, right? And the C leg. So A, B, C. So we have this three-wave move, right? We have an impulse to the upside, and now we're flagging out, guys, and we're still flagging out. And that's the whole thing, is that this is a wave 1, and now we're flagging out for wave 2, right? And you can say, well, and now we're going to get, eventually we'll get that wave 3 to the upside. You can say, well, how is that going to happen if we just got the appeal, right? Why would people do that? Well, again, go back over here. Why would people buy all of that? Because price is king. Price dumped, and then it came all the way back up, right? So if we translate that, price dumps, maybe we go back up, because people are starting, we flush the lows, but smart money is buying these discounted prices because they understand that this is such a good deal. I mean, XRP went down to 50 cents. It's 52, 53 cents. That's a really good deal based off where it is. Because if you look at, for example, Bitcoin, right? This is where we are with Bitcoin, right here. So we had a rise, crash, retrace, reaccumulation. Now we're going sideways. So XRP is the equivalent of Bitcoin being at, let's say, $9,000. Okay. So we had this rise, crash. You could see the little shape here, the cup and handle right there, right? Now let's take that off. And now just look at XRP, right? It's in that same sort of spot, right? So you got the cup, you got the handle here, or it's really a rise, crash, retrace, reaccumulation. We're going sideways. This is like Bitcoin being at 9,000. And then what happened next? Bitcoin breaks out and it goes to 60,000, right? Which would be the equivalent of XRP going up to like, $8, $9, $10. So that's kind of how I'm looking at what's about to happen with XRP. Now, could there be a lot of downside problems to come, right? Again, we're still in an election. We got deep state events all going all over the place. They can try to push prices down, but global liquidity is rising. Central banks are trying to own everything. They're trying to buy it all because that's how they get more powerful, is by buying assets, right? So what do you think is going to happen? You think the stock market is going to go up, or do you think it's going to crash? I think the stock market is going to continue to just pump because they're pouring gasoline into it, because that's how they that's how they keep this system afloat. But if Trump gets in, maybe they want to wreck it. Maybe they want to demolish it, right? To blame him for whatever reason. Right? So, there's a lot of things that could happen, and that's why it's very risky. Don't let me say one way or the other. Crypto is the most riskiest, volatile thing on the planet. But if in my understanding, it's not. It's not risky. It's risky not to own it. That's how I look at it. It's risky not to own it, because it doesn't matter where you bought in this zone, right? People buy and it goes down, back down. It doesn't matter. As long as we're accumulating, when we get back above the all-time high, all of these entries are going to be like, who cares? You see what I mean? So the main thing I'm trying to emphasize is, what is the next news event? What is the next narrative? Again, we just had the appeal. We just crashed to the downside. So what happens next, right? Well, I think the XRP ETF is going to get approved very soon. I think a Ripple IPO is on the horizon. I think a new administration is going to clean up at the SEC. People are going to be optimistic about crypto again. There's not going to be fear, uncertainty, and doubt. Remember the capital gains bullcrap that Kamala wants to do, right? So even if Kamala wins, I think we're going to see some bullish action simply because, the Democrats are going to fold to a lot of these hedge funds and a lot of these Wall Street big businesses, banks, because, their clients are demanding it and they have to go by what the wealthy are demanding. So I think it's going to be a lot easier and a lot smoother with Trump. And I think it's going to be a very interesting time. So let's look a little bit closer here. Let's go to like the 8-hour chart. Now, when you look at the 8-hour chart, I'm actually going to go let's look at the line chart, and let's bump that up to like the daily here. Okay, so the line chart, I'm thinking, right, we're flagging out in here. So let me show you the deviations right here. So we have a parallel channel. I'm going to put it down here to the top of here, about right there, right? And this is a bull flag with deviations. So you can see we have a deviation here and we had a deviation here, right? But that doesn't change the fact that we're still in a bull flag. So what I think is going on is we have an impulse to the upside, right? And here's the main idea. Here's the grand finale. Ready? Let me delete this. Okay. Which is impulse, 3-wave pullback, 3-wave correction, 5 waves down. That is a flat. We have 1, 2, 3 down. We have 1, 2, 3 up. And now we're getting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 down. So we have an A, B, C. We have a flat here. Once this finishes, you can see the support very strongly here at that 50-cent area. Once it finishes, we're probably going to do something like that. So that's how I'm looking at it. But first of all, there's a lot of work that needs to be done, like a retracement, right? So let's say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then we go back up in 3. Well, if we go back up in 3, then I'm not going to be happy. I'm going to say, no, we're going down. If we build a base and we go up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and we have a 3-wave pullback and we flag out like that, then I'm going to be happy. Then I'm going to think we're going to break out. So it's all about how it retraces, right? Because when you're at the top or when you're at the bottom, it's the same thing. But when you're in the middle of the retracements, that's always the very, very tricky part of this whole thing. So let's go back to the candles. And we are oversold on the 4-hour, right? Remember what I said about the RSI. I said it 2 days ago and yesterday as well, which is what? We want to see oversold, which we did. We want to see a bounce, which we're getting. And then what do we want to see, right? We want to see the price flag out for a 4th wave, and then we want to see it come down and take the low. That would be bullish divergence right here. Bullish divergence. And if we get something like that, that would be the spot to go long between 47 and 50 cents. That's where I'm going long. That's not financial advice. That doesn't mean you should, but we got to have the divergence, and we got to have a clear 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 waves. And then from there, we want a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 wave impulse off the low. We want a 3-wave pullback, and then we want to continue pumping up into the retracement levels. From there, we would flag out, get some resistance, and then hopefully break out. So that's kind of how I would imagine this thing going down, right? Because let's go back in time. if you look, when XRP got smashed to the downside based off that SEC news, what happened? Well, we had a crashing structure, right? We had this big wave to the downside. We pumped up, and then we hit the low, right? And we had that divergence there. And then we came up like that, and then we flagged out. And then we broke to the upside, and then we started going into accumulation, reaccumulation. And then eventually we broke to the upside, right? So when we look at like THETA, for example, and I'm using THETA as an example, right? We can see we have THETA on the top and XRP on the bottom, and you can see, right? We had 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? And then we had 6, and then 7, and then we had this three-wave move, pulled back, and broke out, right? So the same thing here. We had 1, 2, 3, 4, and then we had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then 7. Okay, and then we had that same kind of move, that three-wave move to the upside, just like here, right? And then we actually were flagging out in here a little bit. Same thing right here, flagging out. And then you can see we broke out, right? We broke out of it ever so slightly. And now we're coming back to back test. The problem with it is, though, you know, this looks more like Wyckoff to me with THETA, right? So I would actually go as far as saying this 1, 2, 3 is the 1, 2, 3 here, and now we're flagging out right here. Boom, 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 right? And then we break out, and then we back test, right? Just like we break out, back test, we go up into a retracement, kind of play around, go sideways, and then break out later on, right? Just like what XRP did. So when we look at it full screen, that's what I believe, that's my main idea for the price of THETA and for all the other ones, right? Is something similar to this, right? Because I still stand by everything I said back in here, which is what? I'm looking for a retracement. But what do we need first? We need a bottoming process. And how long does that take? That takes some time, right? Going sideways is the best thing that we can do, because if we came down and then we shot straight back up, we're most likely going to fall, right? But if we come down and we go oscillate back and forth, we're building structure, we're building support in the chart for us to use later on, right? So as far as THETA goes, right now, let's look at the 4-hour chart. I mean, you can see we are definitely bouncing to the upside. Definitely getting a bounce here. Now, the big thing I'm looking for is getting back to here. So if we break that line, then I think the correction is done. If we come up and we get rejected, then two things are going to happen. Number one, we come up and then we flag out and then go. Okay, that's number one. Or number two, we get up here, we get rejected, we come down and we break the low, we get divergence, and then we break out and go like that. Okay, so those are the two options, right? You break out, you flag out here, or you have to hit the low and flag out later. But either way, you know, it's we're looking for a retracement, right? So that's kind of how I'm looking at it. We'll see what happens, right? So if I draw a channel here, we're starting to see somewhat of a channel here, and I'm gonna have to play with it a little bit, but you can kind of see where I'm going with that. And the objective is to get back to this mean line and eventually get back to this upper line up here, right? So, I mean, this is buying opportunity. I mean, look, we have our low, we have a low, and we're right here at the low. Accumulation, 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 right? So let's build a base and let's have a retrace. Let's flag out and let's continue to roll. So that's how I'm thinking. And when I say that, I'm talking about all of them, like Filecoin, Matic, ADA, Ethereum. I mean, they're all the same, right? XRP is the only one that has a different type of look to it, right? So, and by the way, THETA, here's the really interesting part. THETA didn't get an appeal. Matic didn't get an appeal. Ethereum didn't get an appeal. Cardano didn't get an appeal. So why the hell did they dump? Explain it to me. Why did they dump based off of that? Because the appeal is the narrative. It's the excuse to go along with it. Yeah, but then why did the other coins dump? That's the, you know what I mean? So I think that dump was going to happen with the appeal or without the appeal. The reason the appeal just gave it the juice, sort of the momentum it needed to push it a little bit further than most of the other altcoins, right? So that the market makers can shake you out and get a discounted price, because XRP is no ordinary asset. Ripple is not an ordinary company. And if they realize how powerful and just how insane it's going to actually be, they're going to want as much as they can get, right? And they're not in a hurry. These guys are already millionaires and billionaires. They're not in a hurry like we are. Like we're in a hurry because we all want to be rich. We finally want to be rich. But at the end of the day, they're already rich. So they don't really care. They can spend a couple years. They could spend multiple years, right? Because they realize how important this is. And I think that's why they're positioning themselves. And that's why it's taking so long, right? Because all the TA guys, when they look at XRP, I saw one on Paul Barron, TA guy. He basically said, XRP is crap. It just goes sideways. It doesn't do anything. It's not going to. Well, here's the thing. There's a reason why it's doing that, right? Why would it go sideways? Why wouldn't it just dump? If it's crap, it should go down. It's not going down. It's going sideways. What does that mean? It's establishing a base. It's creating something bigger than itself, really, right? So, but I get what he's saying. Yeah, it's boring. It's not doing anything, blah, blah, blah. But again, I think they're doing that so that they can buy time, so that they can load up even more than they already have. And again, they're not in a rush, right? They're not in a rush to get rich because they're already rich, right? But we are in a different position. So retail is very emotional, right? They're emotional traders, because if you win, if XRP goes to $10, you're going to be more emotionally affected than, say, Warren Buffett, and he buys XRP and it goes to $10. He's like, yeah, whatever. It's just another day. It's just another walk in the park. Who cares? No big deal. This is what we do every day. Get used to it. Meanwhile, we're like, whoa, I can't believe this happened. We're rich. Oh my God, we got money now. I mean, it's like, so that's just the way it goes. So anyways, video is about an hour long. I think that'll do it for this video. Let me just go into the small time frames and let's see what we're working with on the small time frames. Okay, so I think I already did this, but let me do it. So this looks like either a bear flag or the beginnings of a bottom. Again, we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's one. This is a 3-wave move, and this is where the ETF was released, right? This could be an A, this could be a B, and then we have 1, 2. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So 1, 2, all of that's 3. and now this is a 4, and then we come down and we get 5. Again, it's Friday, we're going into the weekend. Saturday, Sunday, usually volume starts to go down, so things kind of settle down a little bit. So maybe Monday we might see a hit to the low. So that's what I'm looking for, is a 5-wave move to the downside. Now it could be an ABC, but that's kind of what I'm looking for. Now the other thing is, if we get back up here, 56, 57, then I'm going to say the bottom is in, at least for now, right? At least for a while. So let me zoom out a little bit. Yeah, so this is a very key area here, right? And if we get back in that yellow zone, I'm pretty confident that we don't need a 5th wave, that we probably already got the 5th wave, right? So at that point, I'm looking for a retracement. So maybe like it could be a diagonal. It's still very early to tell. It could be a diagonal, it could be Wyckoff, it could be just a standard retracement. We get back up here, and then we come back down, right? And we start building a base in here. I mean, we could see something like that too. Or we can get a full-fledged breakout here. So like, imagine this is like C19, right? Where you come up and bam, you get smacked down. What happens with C19? It starts to go up like this, kind of curls around, right? And then it pops the high, and then it flags out in here, and then it just goes like crazy, right? So something like that, where you have a quick retracement, you flag out a little bit, and then you go. So we could get something like that. And if we did, that would be extremely bullish, right? Because people are positioning themselves according to what they believe is going to be the future outcome before it actually happens, right? So that's different than a news narrative, in which case XRP was released. The appeal decision was released. That was a news event. But that news is over, right? The appeal is still there, but now it's like, okay, what's the next thing that's going to happen? Are they going to win the appeal? Well, if you talk to all the lawyers, they basically got no shot. They're doing it for optics. They're doing it for political reasons. They're doing it for the Coinbase and Binance argument, right? Because when they argue in court, they want to have as much on their side as possible. So that appeal makes it look a little bit better for them, but it's just optics, right? So I think people are starting to realize that, and they're starting to price things in accordingly. They understand that the ETF is a very powerful thing. They understand, the Grayscale Trust is a very big thing as well, right? You got all these partnerships. Now, haven't even talked about the partnerships yet. They just had a big partnership, I think, in Dubai, and let's see.
According to Yahoo Finance, Ripple partners with Mercado Bitcoin to expand cross-border payments in Brazil.
Oh, wow.
Ripple
Okay,
announced
Brazil.
The opening of its high-speed payment solution, Ripple Payments, in Brazil.
Yeah, so, Bank of America, you had Brazil. This is let's see here. Let's go to news. Ripple partners with Clear Junction to enhance UK. Guys, they're making partnerships all day. Guys, Ripple is not an ordinary company. They are so diversified in their partnerships, and it's insane. But people correlate with XRP with Ripple and what they're doing. Ripple, XRP is 50 cents. It's never going to do anything. It's boring. It's trash. It's this, it's that. But at the end of the day, you got to put the price to the side. And you got to understand why it's sideways, why it's boring, right? If you knew, let me put this in front of you right here. If you knew that XRP was going to go to $100, this is you knowing that, right? And let's say you're like, okay, it's going to go to $100 because it's going to be in a great position as far as all of the business they're doing. Then what would you do? You would buy it. But you wouldn't just buy it, you would buy it over and over and over again. So you have a job, you have your paycheck, right? You take a percentage of your paycheck and you buy XRP. And you're like, yes, it's gonna go to $100. And then you bust out your calculator, because I know that's what you guys do. I know that's what you guys do. You're taking your calculator out, right? And you're like, okay, I got this many coins, and if we hit this price, I'm gonna have this much money. And that's what we do, and that's great. That's what we want to do, because we're visionaries. We have belief, right? But here's the thing: you look at the price and you're like, whoa, I'm gonna be rich, right? But what are the people that are already rich? What are they doing? Well, buying XRP isn't enough. They need to buy it week after week after week, month after month after month, year after year. And even then it's not enough, because they realize, hey, if this thing's going to $100, by the way, I don't think it's going to $100. I'm just giving an analogy. But even if it was $10 and they knew how powerful it's going to be, they're going to want to own as much as they possibly can. So how do they do that? They range it. That's what they do. We are in reaccumulation. The bigger the reaccumulation structure, the higher the price goes. A great example is XRP and Dogecoin. I mean, look at Dogecoin, right? I mean, it went completely crazy. I mean, it went unbelievably high. And you can see this is during this time here, right? So when I sort of stretch it out a little bit, this is exactly what Dogecoin did back in the day, right? It kind of was ranging in here. Look at this box. I mean, you can see right here, look at this box right here, right? That's the same thing what's going on right now, right? Oscillation, especially in here where we had all of this reaccumulation, just like in here, right? So you come down, you have the liquidity grab, and then you bust a move to the upside. And you're kind of like flagging out in here. Same thing here, you're flagging out. So the next move is a monster move to the upside. And I think that is still coming despite the ETF despite the appeal. So, I mean, here's just a little sliver of R3, right? R3 and XRP. Look at all these partners. I mean, you got all of these here. A list of all Ripple partnerships. This was 6 years ago. I mean, look at all these guys. And they just got way more now. And you can say, well, why is the price so cheap? Because, again, they're loading up. They're ranging it. They're ready to go. I think a lot of it has to do with regulations. A lot of it has to do with Bitcoin going into expansion. A lot of it has to do with who's going to be the next president. A lot of it has to do with this lawsuit, because we were in this lawsuit for a while. So all of these things are sort of marinating together, and it's going to get to a point where it's just going to go completely insane. Okay, so let's just let's look at Bitcoin real quick, and then we'll wrap it up. So when I look at Bitcoin, it did have a pullback exactly where we thought it would go, which is right in this zone. The question now is it finished? Well, it's a little bit challenging to know without a retracement. So when we look at the 4 hour, we have incredible bullish divergence. We have these dojis here. It's looking really interesting. I mean, you can, on the face of it, you could say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, even 6 and 7, right? So if this turns into a 5-wave leg, that gets us back above 64K, right? Then I'm going to say yes. But if we come up here, we get rejected, we could come down and flag out and then go. Or if this is just a 3-wave move, so for example, 1, 2, 3, we have a 4, and then we come down, we get 5. We get more bullish divergence hitting around that 57, 60K area, that's when we start to go up. So it's all about what happens over the next couple, actually the next week or two is going to really explain a lot of stuff, right? So when we zoom in, by the way, if you can hit that like button, I'm way over an hour, but we can see 1, 2, right? And then we have sort of this A, B, C here, right? This three-wave move down. And then we have this three-wave move up, right? So it just seems like it should take the low out and get one more low. If it doesn't get one more low, then what we would do, how we would figure that out, is we would look at the small time frames. Do we have, it looks very corrective, by the way. It looks very corrective. But this looks like an A, B, C. But if this turns into like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then we have a nice A, B, C, and we pull back like that, then I'm going to think it's probably, we're probably in for a bigger wave to the upside, right? So, yeah, let's see how all of this plays out. So as far as the appeal goes, it's not such a big deal. I was very pissed when I seen it because I thought it could be over. I was kind of too optimistic. But then when I kind of go back and I think about things, and I'm like, yeah, it makes sense. It makes sense as to why they did it, especially for the Coinbase and Binance reason. But it's only it's only for optical reasons. We got 30 days until the election. I think that's an October surprise. I think there's going to be a lot of surprises this October, right? If the Democrats had any brain cells, they would actually come out and talk about crypto in a nice way, right? Maybe we get a bullish rally out of it. People feel optimistic, crypto for Kamala or whatever that is. It's all BS, by the way, and I think they know that. I think they know that people realize the real truth. That's probably why they're not putting in any effort. But like if Kamala sat down with, a Bitcoin group and discussed policy, which would never happen, but I mean something to showcase that she actually cares about crypto. But we've seen Trump do it a lot. So again, it's all going to come down to who wins the election, right? So the market is trying to price in who's going to win the election, right? So I think that's what Bitcoin is waiting for, because at the end of the day, there's a couple things that could happen here, right? Number one, obviously we're flagging out for a fourth wave. So we have 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, and 3 down. W, X, Y, and then we go. So that would be thing number one. Thing number two is, we've already had our W, X, Y, X, Z. This is a 1, this is a flat here, and now this is another 1, 2. And we're ready to go. We just got a little bit more consolidating, then go. Those are the two bullish ideas. Number 3, we come down, right? We get rejected. We have this 3-wave down. We break this low. We come up here. We get rejected, and then we come down. So those are the 3 options as far as, do we go into an expansion or do we have to go down into reaccumulation, right? So between 30 and 40K. And then once we get that, then we go higher, right? So you can see this is going higher, this is going higher, this is going. It's only a matter of time. It's going to happen. It's just a matter of time. But anyways, that'll do it. I will catch you guys on the next one. If you can hit that like button, I really appreciate that. Drop a comment. Let me know what you guys think, and I will catch you guys on the next one. Cheers.